Yes, congratulations! You got your dream job. But now is the hard part because now you need to make sure you get paid not only well, but as much as you can. So today I'm talking about how do you negotiate a higher salary once you have the offer in hand. And if you stay tuned, I'm going to share with you 5 key steps in making sure that you engage that salary negotiation and get all you deserve. Let's go. Okay, so your job search is over. You have the job of your dreams. The offer's in hand. Now you're in that strange period between offer and acceptance. And you're trying to figure out, what do I do with the salary negotiation? First one here is just to normalize that part of your negotiation as to whether you say yes or no to this job is going to involve the salary. Why do I say normalize it? Because most employers are going to give you an offer and they're going to say, this is what the salary is. And they're going to say it in a way that makes it seem like that is not negotiable. They'll say, we talked our internal equity and we looked at your experience and we looked at where you would be starting and we think this is a fair and even ambitious salary. Congratulations. You should say thank you. But remember, they are probably expecting a negotiation on salary. And even if they're not expecting that, it's completely normal from the perspective of someone who just got a job offer to start talking about that. So the more you can have in your mind that salary is negotiable, the more likely it is that you will actually raise it as part of the negotiation. So now you have the offer. How do you negotiate the salary? Do you just say, can you do any better? Or do you just say, how about another 5,000? Like, no. The second piece of advice is doing your homework. Now, you may have actually done this even before you got the offer, but if you haven't, this is where you need to pick up the phone, get on the internet, look for standard salaries for the job that you have and the qualifications that you have, and get as much criteria as you possibly can. That criteria can be both within the organization, if you're able to get that, and often there are ways to do that, or externally. But the more data you can bring to bear, the better you're going to be armed in that actual negotiation. So now you've done your homework, you have a sense that there are some objective criteria, some norms that would suggest an increase in your salary. So how do you approach either the HR person or your future boss? Well, the third step is framing your request in a way that aligns with the interests of your future employer. Now, you might be thinking, okay, like that's nice, Bob, but I don't think my future employer has as one of their interests paying me more. And that's probably true. But your employer probably does have as some of their interests motivating you to be a superstar on the job, making you feel really valued, making you feel like you're being paid fairly, making you feel good about starting work there. And so when I say frame in a way that aligns with their interests, what I want to suggest is saying something like, I'm so excited about this job, and there's so many ways in which it meets my interests. At the same time, I want to make sure that I am feeling as motivated, as excited as I possibly can. And for me, getting a salary that is a bit higher in these ways, and this is where you actually will share some of the criteria, would make me feel really valued and part of the team. So the way I'm framing the ask is in ways that align with their own self-concept of them as an employer. Fourth, also related to framing, is framing your salary request in terms of fairness and external criteria and equity. So in other words, you don't want to just say, hey, I think I should get paid $10,000 more. or $20,000 more or $50,000 more. Instead, you want to say, it's really important to me that my starting salary here be consistent with how others are getting paid with similar qualifications and similar experience in this organization. And for this reason, I've done this research and I believe this would be a fair number. So linking it around criteria, fairness, and equity. Let me give you 2 stories around this. Some years ago, I was hired by someone who had just gotten an offer to be the vice president of a division of a very large company. And her salary seemed on the low side, both to her and to me. So one of the things that I had her do is reach out to every single colleague she knew, both within that company and externally, to get relevant salary numbers for people starting in a similar role. And one of the things that we learned is that actually her offer was substantially less than pretty much every other salary she could find. And so what she was able to do is to go back and use those other numbers and also make an argument particularly around the fact that she was the first woman being hired into this role, and say that especially on grounds of equity and gender equality in pay, it was important to her that her salary be consistent and comparable with the other criteria. And this was an extremely successful strategy and that got her $200,000 more in her first year on the job. Let me give you another example involving myself. Many, many years ago, in actually my first professional job coming out of law school, I had been told repeatedly that the amount of money that I was being offered was the most that was in the budget. But then what I was able to do is ask around, and I actually learned that there was someone else who had a similar credential as me working in the same organization that was getting paid $8,000 more. And I went back to my future supervisor and shared this information and then asked, can you help me understand what the difference is between this other person and me? He immediately responded, well, in that case, we'd be delighted to give you the other $8,000. The reality is that most people on the other side of a negotiation care about being perceived as fair and equitable. And so if you can show them that the salary you're being offered is lower than that, it is a great way to see a salary adjustment. The last important piece around salary negotiations is really improving your B.A.T.N.A. So what is a B.A.T.N.A? A B.A.T.N.A is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So one of the things I always say to one of my students, if they've gotten a job offer, and let's say it's working at a particular New York City law firm, maybe it's their dream law firm, and I'll say to them, great, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get 1 or 2 other offers at similar firms in New York City. And they might say, yeah, but I don't want to work there. Why am I wasting my time? I totally get it. But here's the thing. Many employers will make a salary adjustment if they think they're going to lose you. That is, if your best alternative to a negotiated agreement is going to a competitor law firm, they don't want to see that happen, and so they're likely to improve your salary. On the other hand, if your B.A.T.N.A is staying at home and knitting or watching Bob Bordone's YouTube videos, that's not as incentivizing to the other side to increase your salary. So, last thing I want to say here, and it's not one of the 5 main points, but it's critically important, is that if you don't ask, you don't have any chance of getting an increase in your salary. So whatever anxieties you might have, I want to invite you to breathe through them. One of the ways that you show your worth to your employer is that you negotiate salary. So first, remember, once you have the job, congratulations, that's a win. Now, normalize the salary negotiation, do your homework, frame your request in ways that align with the other side's interests, frame your request in terms of fairness and criteria and equity, and consider improving your B.A.T.N.A before you begin that negotiation. Okay, if you want to keep on learning on how to be effective in salary negotiations and more, watch this next video on how do I negotiate when the other side has all the power. And of course, please be sure to like this video, ring the bell for notifications, and I'd be incredibly grateful if you would subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Click, click, click. Okay, you know what? You want to get more power in negotiation, watch this next video.